Captain Dae-ho Kim stared at the empty space where New Seoul Colony used to shine. 3 days ago, 12 million people lived on that world. Now there was nothing but a gray ball of dust floating in the darkness. "Another one gone," whispered Nari Park from her science station. Her hands shook as she recorded the readings. "The void plague is moving faster than our models predicted." Dae-ho closed his eyes for a moment. In the past 6 months, humanity had lost 8 colonies to this mysterious plague. First, the plants would stop growing. Then the animals would simply lie down and die. Finally, even the bacteria in the soil would fade away, leaving worlds that looked like ancient rocks that had never known life. The worst part was that no one understood how it worked. The plague didn't spread through contact or air or water. It just appeared in a system and began draining the life from everything it touched. Earth's greatest scientists were completely puzzled. "Sir," called Woo Jin Lee from the tactical station, "we're receiving new orders from Fleet Command." Dae-ho opened the message on his command screen. Admiral Chen wanted the research vessel, Horizon's Edge, to investigate the Kepler sector, far beyond the edge of known space. It was humanity's last desperate attempt to find answers before the plague reached Earth itself. "How long until we reach the sector?" Dae-ho asked. 18 days at maximum warp," replied So Young Choi from communications. "But sir, that will use most of our fuel reserves. We won't have enough to get back to any human colony." Dae-ho looked around at his crew. These 23 people were some of humanity's best and brightest. Nari was a genius at understanding alien life forms. Woo Jin had never lost a battle. So Young could talk to species that didn't even use sound to communicate. They all knew this mission was probably a one-way trip. "Set course for Kepler sector," Dae-ho ordered. "Maximum warp." The ship's engines hummed to life, pushing them into the unknown regions of space where no human had ever traveled. For 18 days they flew through empty systems, past dead stars and broken planets. The universe out here felt cold and abandoned. "Captain," Nari called out on day 16. "I'm detecting something strange ahead. The cosmic background radiation is all wrong. It's like something massive absorbed all the energy from this entire region. They dropped out of warp in what had once been a busy star system." Dae-ho could tell because the navigation computers showed where planets should be, but now there were only asteroid fields and floating debris. Whatever had killed this system had done it millions of years ago. "My God," whispered Woo Jin. "What could destroy an entire star system like this?" Before anyone could answer, So Young's communications board lit up with signals. "Captain, I'm detecting a transmission. It's very weak but definitely artificial. Someone is still alive out there." On screen, Dae-ho ordered. The main viewer showed empty space filled with drifting rocks and metal fragments. Then So Young adjusted the sensors and they could see it. A massive ship unlike anything in human records floated among the debris. Its hull looked like it was made of crystal, but the crystal was cracked and bleeding streams of colorful energy into space. "That ship is huge," Woo Jin reported. "At least 10 times the size of our biggest carriers. But it's badly damaged. Hull breaches on multiple levels, life support is failing, or it is. The transmission is coming from inside," So Young added. "It's not in any language I recognize, but the pattern suggests intelligence. Someone is calling for help." Dae-ho stared at the dying alien ship. His orders were to search for answers about the plague, not to rescue unknown aliens. Plus, they barely had enough fuel to complete their survey mission. Stopping to investigate would mean they definitely couldn't return to human space. But someone was dying out there in the dark. Someone who had survived alone in this dead system for who knows how long. As captain, Dae-ho had to make the choice. Plot. An approach course, he decided. Prepare the shuttle for boarding operations. "Sir," Woo Jin said carefully, "if we divert to help them, we won't have fuel to reach the other survey points. This could be our only chance to find clues about stopping the plague." Dae-ho looked at the broken crystal ship on the screen. Somewhere, inside, a living being was sending out a call for help across the empty darkness. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe it would doom humanity. But he knew he couldn't just fly away and leave someone to die alone. "I know the risks," he told his crew. But we can't ignore a distress call. Prepare for docking procedures. The shuttle bay was barely large enough to fit inside the alien ship's torn hull. As they flew through the crystal corridors, emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls. The air was thin but breathable, which surprised everyone. They found the source of the transmission in what looked like a garden. Broken plants covered the floor, and dried-up water channels showed where rivers once flowed. In the center of this dead paradise, a tall figure waited for them. The alien was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Its body seemed to be made of the same crystal as the ship, but dim light pulsed through it like a heartbeat. 6 arms moved gracefully as it turned to face them. Its face had too many eyes, but somehow they looked kind and sad. "I am Velthar of the Eternal Gardens," the alien said, its voice appearing directly in their minds. "I have waited so long for someone to hear my call." So Young stepped forward with her translation equipment, but Velthar raised one hand. "No need for machines, young speaker. My people learned your languages from the cosmic winds. I know why you have come to this dead place." "You know about the plague affecting our worlds?" Nari asked. "The Void Plague," Velthar said, his mental voice heavy with ancient sadness. "Yes, I know it well. It killed my people. It killed all the gardeners. I am the last of the Keith Mori, and I am dying." He moved slowly to a wall covered in glowing symbols. "My species tended life across the galaxy for millions of your years. We helped plants grow on dead worlds. We taught animals how to thrive in new environments. We were the gardeners of the cosmos." "What happened to your people?" Deho asked. "Our ancient enemies found us at last," Velthar replied. "The ones who call themselves the Entropy Cult. They believe the universe should return to cold emptiness. They created the Void Plague as their ultimate weapon. It took them 3,000 years, but they killed every garden we had planted, every world we had touched with life. The crystal alien's light grew dimmer. I spent the last centuries of my life trying to find a cure. I came close, but my strength fails. Soon there will be no one left who remembers the secret of growing. Life in dead soil." Velthar turned to study the humans with his many eyes. "But you came. When your own species faces extinction, you stop to help a dying stranger. That gives me hope." He moved to a small alcove and removed something that looked like a bottle made of living light. Inside, swirling energy moved like liquid starlight. "This is all I can offer," Velthar said, holding out the container. "A fragment of what my people called life essence. It is not much, but perhaps your scientists can learn from it. Perhaps they can find what I could not." Nari took the bottle with careful hands. The energy inside pulsed warmly against her palms. "What exactly is this?" "The concentrated will to live," Velthar explained. "Every garden my people planted, every world we brought back from death, started with this essence. It does not just resist the plague. In the right hands, it can transform destruction into creation." The alien's crystal body was becoming transparent. His time was running out. "Remember us young gardeners?" Velthar said as his light began to fade. "Remember that once there were those who chose to plant flowers in the darkness. And perhaps, if you are clever and brave, the gardens will bloom again." With those words, the last Kethmori became still and silent. His crystal form remained, but the light that had been his life was gone forever. The human stood in the dead garden, holding a bottle of impossible energy and the weight of an entire species' hopes. Behind them, space held only empty darkness and the drifting remains of worlds that would never bloom again. But in Nari's hands, the life essence continued to pulse with warm, steady light. Nari Park had not slept for 3 days. She sat in her laboratory on Luna Colony, staring at the bottle of life essence that Velthar had given them. The strange energy inside moved like liquid light, pulsing with a rhythm that reminded her of a heartbeat. "Any progress?" asked Taemin Yoon, the chief engineer. He brought her coffee and looked tired himself. "It's incredible," Nari said, pointing to her test results on the screen. "Watch what happens when I expose plague samples to the essence." She activated a small containment field where void plague energy swirled like black smoke. When she added a tiny drop of the life essence, something amazing happened. The dark energy began to change color, shifting from black to deep blue, then to bright green. Instead of consuming the test plants in the container, the transformed energy made them grow faster and stronger. It doesn't just fight the plague, Nari explained. It turns the plague into something that helps life grow. But there's a problem. She showed Taemin the essence bottle. The liquid light was noticeably dimmer than when they first received it. We only have enough to treat maybe 2 small planets, she said. Meanwhile, the plague is spreading faster. We lost the farming colonies of New Seoul and Nova Busan yesterday. Millions of people are dead. In the government building on Earth, President Hyun-Soo Kang faced angry crowds outside his office. The news about the limited cure had leaked, and people were demanding answers. "Which worlds will you save?" shouted reporter Jae-sung Park during the emergency press conference. "And which will you let die?" President Kang had no good answer. How do you choose between 12 billion people on Earth and 8 billion on the colony worlds? How do you tell parents that their children's planet wasn't selected for salvation? But Nari was making progress in her lab. Working with historian Jin A. Song, she studied the crystal ship's database that So Young had partially downloaded. The information was fragmentary, but it painted a picture of the Kethmori as master gardeners who could transform entire dead star systems into gardens in just a few decades. "Look at this," Jin-A said, pointing to translated symbols on her screen. "The Kethmori didn't work alone. These records show they were all connected somehow. They shared thoughts and feelings across impossible distances." "Connected how?" Nari asked. "I'm not sure," Jin-A admitted. "But every successful garden project involved thousands of Kethmori working together, even when they were on different planets. It's like they had one big shared mind." Nari stared at the essence bottle. "What if that's the key? What if the life essence doesn't just need one scientist to study it? What if it needs many minds working together like the Kethmori did?" She called Captain Daeho, who was still returning from the Kepler sector. "Captain, I need to try something dangerous. Can you gather volunteers from the other ships in your fleet?" 2 days later, 12 ships positioned themselves around the solar system. Each ship had a volunteer crew member holding a small sample of life essence. Using the quantum communication network, they tried to link their thoughts together the way the Kethmori had. The first attempt was a disaster. Lieutenant Bonhwa Seo screamed and collapsed as alien thoughts invaded his mind. Engineer Yoo-jin Kim fell into a coma that lasted 6 hours. Human brains were not designed to share consciousness with others, but Nari refused to give up. "We're thinking about this wrong," she told her team. "We're trying to become Kethmori. Instead, we need to find the human way to do this." The third attempt happened while the plague was attacking the orphanage ships fleeing from New Incheon. These ships carried 50,000 children whose parents had died defending their world. As the dark energy reached toward the helpless ships, the 12 volunteers tried once more to connect their minds. This time, they didn't think about science or alien consciousness. They thought about the children's faces. They thought about bedtime stories and birthday parties and school plays that would never happen if the plague won. In that moment of shared love and worry, something incredible occurred. The life essence responded not to alien thoughts, but to human emotions. It flowed through the quantum network like liquid compassion, growing stronger as it touched each person's caring heart. Where the enhanced essence met the void plague, beautiful things happened. The dark energy became streams of creative force that began building new stars and planets instead of destroying them. The plague itself became a tool for creating life. But the network only lasted 3 minutes before the volunteers collapsed from exhaustion. They had proved it was possible, but connecting human minds was incredibly difficult and dangerous. "We need more people," Nari told President Kang. "And we need them to feel connected to each other, not just linked by machines." The answer came from an unexpected place: the children themselves. 7-year-old Boram Lee missed her home on New Busan. The refugee ship was crowded and scary, and her parents cried when they thought she wasn't looking. But Boram had heard the stories about brave grown-ups who connected their minds to fight the hungry darkness that ate planets. She started a game with the other children called Mind Friends. They would sit in circles, hold hands, and close their eyes. Then they would imagine pushing the darkness away with thoughts of their favorite memories. Birthday cakes, puppy dogs, summer days at the beach. The game spread from ship to ship. Soon, thousands of refugee children were playing Mind Friends, pretending to be heroes who could save the galaxy with their thoughts. Child psychologist Yoon Seo Park was the first adult to notice something strange. When she observed the children playing their game near Nari's laboratory, the life essence samples began glowing brighter. The children weren't just playing pretend. They were actually affecting the alien energy. Their minds work differently than ours, Yoon Seo explained to the emergency council. Children haven't learned to be afraid of sharing their thoughts. They're naturally more open and trusting. The life essence responds to that openness. This discovery horrified many adults. President Kang refused to allow children to be used in dangerous experiments, but the children themselves wanted to help. They understood that their parents and older siblings were dying to protect them. 8-year-old Subin Choi, whose parents had died defending New Seoul, spoke to the Planetary Council through a video link. "The nice starman gave us a present. To stop the hungry dark," she said in her small, clear voice. "But grown-ups think too much. Kids just know how to share better." The debate lasted weeks while more worlds fell to the plague. Finally, they reached a compromise. Children could volunteer to help, but only in small groups with doctors watching, and only for a few minutes at a time. The first child network test amazed everyone, where adult volunteers could maintain the connection for 3 minutes before collapsing. Groups of children kept it going for a whole hour while laughing and singing together. The life essence didn't just copy itself in their presence. It became smarter and more powerful as each child added their unique way of thinking to the shared experience. But their success attracted unwanted attention. Deep space monitors detected massive ships approaching human territory. The beings who had created the Void Plague were coming to see why their ultimate weapon had stopped working. The entropy cult had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. They believed the universe should be cold and empty, and they had destroyed countless species who disagreed. Now they were coming for humanity. The alien ships that appeared at the edge of human space were unlike anything in Earth's databases. They seemed to eat light itself, creating holes in the star field where they passed. Military scanners could barely detect them, and energy weapons passed right through their hulls. Nethkarak the Void Speaker commanded the cult fleet from his flagship, a massive vessel that had consumed entire star systems for fuel. He had destroyed civilizations that were millions of years older than humanity. These young creatures should have been easy prey. But when his scouts reported what they found, Nethkarak became concerned. The humans had not just survived the Void Plague. They had turned it into a weapon of creation. Even worse, they were doing it through emotional connection rather than advanced technology. "Impossible," Nethkarak said to his lieutenant. "We have purged such weaknesses from 10,000 species. Emotion is a disease. Cooperation is a poison. How do these primitives resist our perfection?" The cult launched their attack on the outer colonies first, expecting easy victory. Their dark ships absorbed every weapon the human fleet fired at them. They converted defensive shields into more plague energy. Nothing could stop them. But then 12 million children across 6 star systems joined hands. It was the largest Mind Friends game ever played. Children on Earth held hands with children on Mars through quantum video links. Children on the mining stations sang lullabies with children on the farming worlds. Children who had never met became best friends across impossible distances. Their combined will, guided by adult volunteers and amplified by the evolved life essence, reached out across space to touch the minds of the entropy cult attackers. For the first time in their existence, cult members experienced something they thought they had destroyed in themselves: memory. They remembered what they had been before, choosing the path of emptiness. Ancient emotions surfaced in their minds: love for companions they had killed, grief for worlds they had helped destroy, and something they barely recognized: regret. The psychological shock was devastating. Cult ships stopped their attack and retreated in confusion. Their crews couldn't understand what was happening to them. They had spent millions of years becoming perfect destroyers, and now they were remembering what it felt like to care about something. But Neth-Karak was stronger than his followers. He fought off the human emotional attack and broadcast a message to Earth. We are eternal, little builders. We have consumed galaxies. Your warmth will not save you when we return with the Deep Fleet. You will learn the peace of the long cold. President Kang called an emergency meeting. How many ships in this Deep Fleet? Our best estimate is over 1,000, reported Admiral Chen. Each one capable of destroying star systems. They'll be back within 6 months. The children had won. One battle, but the war was just beginning. Humanity needed allies, and they needed them fast. Fortunately, their act of kindness to a dying Kethmori was about to bring help from across the galaxy. The quantum consciousness network that connected human children had an unexpected side effect. It created a type of faster-than-light communication that could pierce through the barriers the entropy cult used to hide their activities. Signals began arriving from distant parts of the galaxy, responding to the psychic light of human compassion. The first contact came from Zeth Mira of the Singing Stones. Her species, the Harmony Builders, had been hiding in crystal asteroid fields for thousands of years. They lived in perfect musical harmony, creating beauty from the basic elements of space. They had survived the cult's purges by making their colonies look like natural crystal formations. We felt your song across the void, Zeth Mira's message said. We recognize the life essence signature of our beloved Kethmori friends. How do you young singers carry their light? More contacts followed quickly. The reef mines had been hiding in nebulae, their coral-like cities masquerading as space phenomena. The Star Shepherds were energy beings who pretended to be solar flares. The Memory Keepers preserved the history of extinct species in living. Libraries hidden inside hollow planets, all of them were survivors of the entropy cult's campaign to eliminate life from the universe. All of them had been waiting for someone to light a beacon of hope, but the most amazing contact came from an impossible source. Hello, young gardeners, a familiar voice said during one of Nari's deep network sessions. Did you think death could stop an old gardener from tending his plants? Velthar of the Eternal Gardens still existed. His body had died, but his consciousness had been preserved in the life essence he gave to humanity. The children's network provided enough psychic energy to restore his sense of self as a pattern of living memory. You have done something my people never achieved, Velthar told the gathered humans and their new allies. You made empathy itself into a weapon against entropy. Your species has shown the galaxy how to fight back. Through Velthar's guidance and the network of survivor species, humanity learned they were not alone. The galaxy was full of hidden life, driven into darkness by the entropy cult, but never truly destroyed. The Human Consciousness Network provided the key to linking all these scattered survivors together. They called it the Garden Network. Every species that joined added their own special abilities to the whole. The Harmony Builders could make dead matter come alive through song. The reef mines could heal damaged ecosystems in hours instead of centuries. The Star Shepherds could move planets to safer locations. But they needed time to build their strength, and Neth-Karak was not going to give them that time. The Deep Fleet arrived 6 months later, just as promised. 1,000 ships that had devoured entire civilizations dropped out of hyperspace around Earth. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, carrying weapons that could crack planets in half. Surrender now, and we will make your extinction quick, Neth-Karak broadcast to every human colony. Resist, and we will make you watch as we slowly consume everything you have ever loved. President Kang's response was broadcast on every frequency. We choose to resist. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. The Deep Fleet surrounded Earth like a cloud of hungry darkness. Neth-Karak was confident this would be easy. He had destroyed species with millions of years of technological advancement. These humans had only just learned to travel between stars. But as the cult ships prepared to fire their planet-cracking weapons, something unprecedented happened across the galaxy. Every survivor species rose at the same moment. The Harmony Builders emerged from their crystal hiding places. Their songs, turning asteroids into living gardens. The reef mines burst from their nebulae, spreading coral cities that bloomed with impossible life. The star shepherds revealed themselves, their energy forms linking star systems with bridges of pure light. At the center of it all, 50 million human children joined the largest Mind Friends game in history. They held hands across continents, their thoughts linked through the quantum network to children on distant worlds. Their combined will, amplified by every survivor species and guided by Velthar's ancient wisdom, reached out to embrace the entire galaxy. The Void Plague itself, evolved through human empathy and Kethamori knowledge, became something entirely new. Instead of consuming life, it began creating it wherever it touched. Dead worlds bloomed with forests, empty space filled with floating gardens. Even the hulls of entropy cult ships began sprouting flowers and trees. Impossible, Nethkarek snarled as vines grew across his command bridge. We are perfection. We are the end of all things. We cannot be defeated by children's games and flower songs. But something even more shocking was happening. Cult members throughout the fleet were laying down their weapons. Exposed too long to the Garden Network's influence, they were remembering what they had given up in their pursuit of perfect destruction. They remembered love and hope and the simple joy of watching something grow. I don't want to destroy anymore, whispered one cult warrior, tears streaming down his face as he stared at a small flower growing from his weapon console. I want to learn how to make things live again. Thousands of cult members defected, asking not for forgiveness but for the chance to become gardeners instead of destroyers. Even some of Nethkarek's closest lieutenants abandoned him, choosing hope over emptiness. In the end, Nethkarek found himself alone on his flagship, surrounded by gardens that his own crew had planted. The deep fleet had become a network of floating parks orbiting Earth. His ultimate weapons had been transformed into tools for spreading life across the cosmos. How? He asked, his voice broken and confused. How did you defeat perfection itself? The answer came from Velthar, speaking through the garden network that now encompassed the entire galaxy. You were never perfect. You were just afraid. Afraid of loss, afraid of change, afraid of caring about something that might die. But these young humans taught us all a secret. The things we love become stronger when we share them, not weaker. Nethkarek stared at the small flower growing on his command console. After millions of years of choosing destruction, he reached out and gently touched its petals. Can I learn too? He asked quietly. Can even I become a gardener? 5 years later, Captain Deho stood on the observation deck of the starship New Horizon, watching as the first restoration fleet departed for the dead systems of the former cult territory. The ships were crewed by humans, harmony builders, star shepherds, memory keepers, and even reformed cult members working together. The most remarkable sight was in the ship's recreation areas, where human children played with young beings from dozens of species. Their laughter created actual ripples of life energy that made flowers bloom in the hydroponics bays. Nari approached, now Director of Galactic Restoration. The network encompasses 40,000 star systems now, she reported. Every species we bring back online adds their own perspective to the collective consciousness. We're not just restoring the galaxy, we're making it better than it ever was before. Through the quantum network, Velthar's voice echoed from the garden worlds they had created together. A single kindness given freely to a stranger in the dark. Look how it has bloomed, young gardeners. Look how it has bloomed. In the depths of space, where the last few entropy cult holdouts still plotted their return, they faced a new reality. The universe had changed. Empathy was now the most powerful force in existence. Every act of compassion made their philosophy of destruction seem more foolish and pointless. The children of humanity had taught the galaxy how to share their hearts. And the return gift was a living universe where cooperation defeated entropy, where gardens bloomed in the darkest places, and where no one ever had to die alone in the cold between the stars. It was, truly, beyond belief.